we've seen that cover many times, but to actually read the article and see how positive they were about this guy, and not just that article, but here's another one on Ansel Keys' profound contributions to World War II. Both the starvation experiments, which were just stellar, unbelievable experiments, and the K rations. And he had already done high altitude testing and things. He was, I don't think many fields get a scientist that great. And, the beef industry, food industry's done everything they can to discredit him. But
do you think he's the most important modern day nutrition scientist?
I think he's the most talented, the most important. I think the 7-country study, when I was a graduate student at Stanford, I was in geophysics. And I didn't like the fact that 25% of our time I was in the electrical engineering department, and 25% in the geophysics department, and 25% in the mathematics department. And I only got to do geophysics 25% of the time. And the geophysics stuff was advanced, digital cameras on satellites, really exciting stuff. And in those other 3 departments, everything we were studying was from the 1800s. And there were these landmark studies, Maxwell's equations for electrical engineering. We spent a year, 3 quarters, on just Maxwell's equations and really getting them in our bones. He's probably the most profound contributor to where we are with electronics today of any scientist who ever lived. And, I greatly admired them for what they did, but I wanted to get on the cutting edge. Well, I think it's the same with Ansel Keys. I think the 7-country study is just one of these amazing studies you could never do again, because you just don't have the environment to do what he did. And they didn't really know how to design studies like that. He invented that. Well, he and Henry Blackburn and some of the others, a whole team of international scientists, they invented how to do that. They didn't just depend on questionnaires. They assayed the food, sent it back to the lab, froze it for future. It was just unbelievable what they did.
Yeah, I think it gets lost, the sophistication at the time of what they were doing.
Yeah. And, the thing is, what really gets me, my heroes are scientists. And Ansel Keys was a great scientist. When I was talking to some others, they would say, why didn't he get all these accolades, Nobel Prize sort of, or, multiple accolades? And I don't know. I guess it's the food companies trying to discredit him, the beef industry and so on. And they've done a good job at that. But if you look at any of the claims, like the one you and I saw on Twitter yesterday, he's responsible for more deaths than Adolf Hitler because he promoted a low-fat diet. He didn't promote a low-fat diet. The 7-country study is right here. It's the Mediterranean diet. Who's read that? It's still available. It's still in print from Harvard University Press. The books, some of his best-selling books are right here. It's the Mediterranean diet, full of olive oil and fish and cheese, and it wasn't low fat.
It's much harder to take the time to get those books and do the reading than it is to fire out a quick tweet, though.
Yeah, but I got obsessed with him because I thought he was so good, and so I became friends with members of the team, like Henry Blackburn. He's like a really good friend.
Is he 96 or something?
97,
now?
Yeah.
97.
He's doing great. He's out on a ski boat and everything.
Wow. You've met him?
I haven't met him. I asked if I could come out and interview him in person on the camera. He's not the most articulate guy. I mean, I love him, and he's probably going to watch this episode.
Hope so.
And fact check.
He's iconic.
He's iconic, yeah. I mean, he ran the 7-country study a lot longer than Ansel Keys did. And, Ansel Keys retired 17 years into the study. It's a 50-year study. And then Henry ran it for the rest of the time, including after Ansel's death. And a lot of the most profound papers published about it came after Ansel Keys died. So the fact that they isolated Ansel Keys and tried to discredit him when, Nina Teicholz could have talked to like Henry Blackburn. But
I think that there's this almost oversimplification that Ansel Keys said to eat low fat, and then what resulted was consumption of Snackwell cookies, low fat, high sugar style products. But even though that happened to a degree, that's not what his message was.
It wasn't his message. He wasn't on the committee he wasn't part of the low fat craze of the 80s or anything like that. It was saturated fat. His hypothesis going in was fat. And half of it got proved wrong. It just didn't turn out to be, all fat. It turned out to be just saturated fat. A profound finding. And some people still deny it, but I heard you say on the Rich Roll podcast, that is one of the foundational messages of nutrition. If that falls, a lot of things fall, but it ain't going to fall because the evidence for it is so strong.
Yeah, and it's only got stronger since
Yeah.
Ansel Keys
Yeah.
started working on this.
Yeah.